All right, hello and welcome to this build guide. This one's a little bit different than some of my previous build guides, or all of my previous build guides, which were based around endgame. They're all endgame builds designed to push arenas, push monoliths. But this one's going to be designed for someone who's just starting the game out. This is their first build, their first playthrough, and they just kind of want to know what to do to get through that and have a decent time. So this has been requested on YouTube. People have been a little bit confused about those other builds and how to make them work. I'm trying to. So here's the build for you if you are new. Play this build if you're looking for a Sentinel. More to come. I'll have other classes as well, but this will at least get us started, get us one starter build guide out there to work with. All right, so what are the pros and cons about this build? This build is a very tanky build, even early in the game, where you can have up to 66% pure damage reduction when you're attacking, which is, as far as I know, the largest individual damage reduction that you can get from one source, the source being Vengeance, the skill that we're going to use. It's also very agile. As you're going to see in the videos, it can move through maps extremely quickly. I don't think any other build or class really comes close, unless they're also using Shield Rush and Lunge like this one does. So if you're trying to get through content a little bit more quickly or just trying to get to the next map, this is going to be a very easy build to do that with. It's also a very easy build to play. As you can see on my bar right now, I've only got 3 skills on there, and that is at level 19. Now, as I go farther up and get into endgame with this build, or as you do, you will probably want to add more stuff, and we'll talk about what those are, but that's quite a ways along. You can probably get to level 40, even level 50, and just use these 3 skills and be totally fine and not really have to worry about it. So this is going to be a very easy build to both design while you're going through the campaign and actually play. With those 3 buttons, they're pretty simple to use, as we'll see. All right, what's the cons? There's really only one con about this build, and that the DPS isn't super high. It's mediocre. It gets better the more enemies are around you, but it never really reaches the very highest levels of the game. But the great news is that the DPS is still good enough to use in end game. There's a very good end game version of this build, so it's not going to really limit you to what you can do. You're still going to be able to do high level content if you decide to continue with this build. But just know that there are going to be builds out there that are going to do more DPS than this one is. All right, and with that, let's actually get into what the build is, how it works, what are your skills. We'll start actually with the skills. So the most important skill that you're going to be using is Vengeance. This is a melee attack that gives you damage reduction when you are attacking. So you can see here 30% less damage uh, when striking at a nearby enemy. And that's just a base damage reduction. We're actually going to increase that, and you'll see how. So there's 2 ways you can go with this when you're starting. If you want to be the tankiest you possibly can be, then just come over here and grab Bolster. To do that, you're going to need 1 point in Executioner. Bolster is going to give you an additional 36% less damage taken on top of the 30% for a total of 66% damage reduction. Once you've done that, you're going to go over and you're going to work your way towards Zealot's Technique. To get this, you're going to take double riposte, which will give you an additional riposte. By the way, what all riposte means in this is when Vengeance attacks, you set yourself up for a riposte, which is basically like a counterattack. And then once the enemy hits you, you do the riposte. So you attack, you're set up, the enemy hits you, you riposte. It all happens basically automatically. You don't have to do anything. Just attack an enemy and you'll get riposted. It's really simple to actually do it. There's nothing really on your part that has to be done other than pressing your button so you hit the enemy. So we'll pick up additional riposte here. Every time we riposte twice. Then we're going to take 4 points in Dark Duelist. This gives 80% global increase damage, so all of our damage will be increased by it. And that happens whenever we're preparing to riposte, so when we're attacking but we haven't been attacked yet. And then we'll take Zealous Technique to get that 3rd one. Once you've done that, you can then divide your points up between Rapid Strikes for attack speed and more Executioner. This is kind of preference. They're both very good nodes. Do you want to attack quicker? This is kind of my preference. I like to have high attack speed. Or do you want that additional just straight damage increase? Either one is fine. On my endgame build, I think I have 5 of 8 in Rapid Strikes and like 3 of 6 in Executioner. But regardless, it's really is just flavor at that point. They're both very good nodes. Now, if you'd rather do more damage early on in the game, you can, instead of going bolster first, go zealot's technique. So you'll actually start with double riposte, dark duelist, the 4 points there, and then zealot's technique, and then you'll come over and take bolster, and then you'll finish off with rapid strikes and execution. That's totally up to you. It's your preference. If you go bolster at the beginning, you're going to find some fights take a while. You don't really have too much of a threat from those fights for the most part, but if you'd rather clear a little bit faster, you'd go this way. Just know that you'll take a bit more damage. You'll still be pretty tanky, but that's a choice you can make. Do you want to do more damage, or do you want to take less damage to early on? Either way, you're going to end up with the same build in the end. All right, now once you've taken Vengeance, you're going to move on and take Shield Rush as your second ability. And there's really only one node in this one that super matters. That's Rush Mastery, because it's going to increase your mana efficiency, allow you to do more shield rushes. Shield Rush is going to be what gets you around the map, and it's going to do it very quickly. And that's its primary purpose. Now, it can do decent damage, and so once you've taken that, we'll take 6 points in Consuming Path, and then 4 points in Will Breaker. This will increase its damage as you're going through enemies. It'll actually one-shot some enemies that after a while and increase your XP gained. But once you've done that, once you've taken Rush Mastery, Consuming Path, and Will Breaker, that's all you really need for this build. You're going to have, I think, like 4 more points left. But you can put that in kind of whatever you want. Maybe you want Descent of the Void, just have a cool Void Beam that follows you. And then Dark Regression is another part of that. You can do stuff like that, kind of whatever you want. None of it's really going to make much of a difference. The only thing you can't take at that point is the synchronous charge, because if you take the synchronous charge, it'll actually return you to your starting position. Not very good for mobility if you like go a distance then come right back where you were. So that's not going to help us out any. So we won't take that one. All right, once you've done that, the only other ability on my bar is Lunge. You don't even need to get a skill tree for this. If you want to take one for a while just to get some, extra benefits from it, you can. But for the simplicity of this guide, I'm just not even gonna. I've got it on here, but you don't need it, because all Lunge is really going to do is be a supplement to Shield Rush. It's not expensive. It's very cheap, actually. It's 1 point or one mana to use the thing. And so after you Shield Rush, if you still need to go farther, you Lunge, and you kind of just alternate between the two. Very easy stuff. Really don't need to complicate that. So that's it. That is what you need as far as skills to get through the story and get to the end game. Pretty simple stuff, pretty easy. It's going to be hard to find a build that's going to be simpler than this to work with as your first build. But we do need to cover the passive skill tree, because every build's got the passive skill tree, and this one's no different. And the passives on this one are pretty fun, actually. So this being a tanky build, we're going to start with Gladiator. It's going to give us block chance. And we're going to take this really nice node, Counterattack, which gives us a 30% chance to attack enemies around us with Retribution. Retribution is like a melee AoE attack that does a lot of damage, actually. It's going to be a significant source of our damage. So this is a really nice node to take. And then we're going to go up and we're going to take Aegis of Renewal. We're going to take only 2 points in this, though, which grants a 25% chance to gain 20 health on block. So it's a nice source of healing. And then we'll take 3 in Iron Mastery, which gives us a 5% chance when we kill an enemy or take a hit to gain Iron Mastery for 5 seconds, which gives us, in this case, 30% more damage and 30% more armor. And then we'll take 5 points in Retaliation. 25% increased damage, which is doubled if we blocked in the last 5 seconds. We'll be blocking a lot. So for the most part, the majority of the time, we're going to have 50% increased damage. So that's really strong. All right, from there, we're going to go into Forge Guard, which is also your mastery, by the way. This is the mastery class you're going to take when you get to the end of time and have the mastery quest to choose. You're going to go with Forge Guard. It's going to give us even more damage reduction. You see here 30% more armor and fire protection. Also 3% less damage taken for each hit you've taken recently. So another additional 30% less damage taken on top of that 66% we talked about earlier. These are not like additive, so it's not like 96%. It'll be like 66% is taken off, and then once that number has been calculated, another 30%. But that's like more complicated than we need to know about. Just know that it's going to be a lot of damage reduction that's going to be that you're going to see from this. All right, once you've taken that, or even before that, once you've gotten your 20 points in Sentinel and you can start putting points into your Forge Guard, you're then going to go down here and take Battle Harden, which is a really good node. It's very, very good. You're gonna get a ton of armor just from getting hit by having this node. It's a huge amount. At endgame, I get up to like 98% armor damage reduction. It's just crazy numbers. But it's really good even in the early game. So take 10 on those. Then come over here and take Steel Aegis. This is going to get us even more block chance, so really solid. We're going to try to get the block chance up as high as we can. And then we're going to take Rallying Block, which gives us 5 additional armor and elemental protection per point for each hit you've blocked in the past 4 seconds. So this is a stacking buff. It'll eventually be 50 additional armor and elemental protections. And as you're getting hit, you're just going to see these numbers like on your character sheet. You can actually pull this up, and as you're getting hit, watch these numbers just like jump. It's crazy to watch them. It's really cool. Once you've got those 10 in there, you should be moving on to Regenerator. Once you've got Regenerator with 8 points, this is going to give you a total of 16 health gained both on block and on hit, which may not sound like all that much, but it's a ton once you actually get into it. So if you get like to a pack of mobs and you have 70% block, so you're 7 out of 10 attacks you're going to get 16 health on, and then every attack you do you're getting 16 health on, and you're going to take almost no damage with this build. It's going to be extremely hard for you to even drop any health for more than like a tenth of a second. It's really, really cool to watch it. That alone right there should be enough to get you to the end game. Just go through here all the way up to Regenerator. Yeah, that'll get you to endgame. So once you get to endgame, though, you might want to keep this build going. It's a very good build in endgame, so there's no reason not to. You're going to want to then move on and take points in Paladin. And the reason you're going to want to do this because if you get to endgame, there's a couple of skills you're going to want to take. So, for example, we're going to want Smite and we're going to want Sigils of Hope at endgame. We're also going to want Ring of Shields. And I'm going to post those right now so you can see what the skill trees are going to look like for those because I actually missed it in the last section. So here's the one for Smite. And Smite's an interesting one. Let me just explain this real quick why we're going to take Smite. Smite is going to increase our attack speed, but it's also going to act as Lunge. It's going to do the thing that Lunge does basically, and then increase our attack speed when we get there by 50%. So it's very powerful. All right, so there's Smite. And then we're going to take Sigils of Hope next. And here's what Sigils of Hope looks like. And we're also going to take, and you'll probably get this one earlier actually, so you can take Ring of Shields first, but we'll take Ring of Shields. And here's what that looks like. Not going to go into a lot of detail with the end game, how the end game skill trees work with these 3 things. So this really is more of a starter guide, but in case you want to go forward, here's what you should take. These will be really good for you. And I will explain really quickly at the end of this how an end game rotation would look like for this. So we will get a little bit into it. Okay, so the points you're going to need in Paladin to unlock Smite and Sigils of Hope at endgame, you're going to want 5 points in Honor, gives you more block chance. Then you're going to want 5 points in Conviction, more physical damage primarily, and then 5 points in Flash of Brilliance, which is one of the few places in here where we're actually going to get additional health. Health is nice. It's not super important for this build because we take so little damage, but more health is powerful. So it also gives us a 30, or excuse me, in this case, a 15% chance to blind enemies on hit. That's nice. All right, once you've got those, you can finish up this build in Forge Guard. We're going to take Flawless Defender, this one right here. We're going to take Shield Crafter. This gives us a 4% chance to cast Ring of Shields when hit, which is going to be really nice. It's kind of like an auto cast of Ring of Shields. Doesn't happen all that often, but when you're in like a really big group of mobs, this is going to go off fairly frequently. All right, then we're going to take Retaliation, which is one of the largest damage bonuses that we'll see on this build. 15% increased damage per point if you've been hit in the past 4 seconds. 10 of those, so 150% increase damage. And then we're going to take Might, 8% increased armor point and 1 strength. And finally, we'll take Molded by the Forge, which will give us 7% increased melee damage per point and 10% increased armor if we blocked an attack recently, which, as we said previously, will block a lot of attacks. So this is another really nice node both for offense and for defense. Okay, let's quickly talk about how to gear this. So while you're leveling, it's going to be very, very simple. You're going to want to wear a shield. Then you're going to want a one-handed weapon with health on melee hit. This is going to be a really good way to regen your health early in the game when other sources of health that we'd get through the passive tree haven't come online yet. It will actually keep you topped off against most enemies, even when you're like standing in things. It's pretty powerful. If you can get this earlier, the better. Sacrifice everything else on your weapon to have health on melee hit. That's going to be really powerful. Once you've got that, if you can get lucky enough to also have either attack speed or plus damage, or both, on your weapon. So this is what plus damage looks like. +5 melee cold, +5 melee fire. Preferably it'd be physical, but any of these are going to increase your damage significantly. And then on top of that, if you can have that attack speed, any of these along with that health on melee hit are going to be ideal. But make sure you have the health on melee hit as your priority. All right, as far as defense, if you can get void protection for the first few chapters, great, because the first few chapters are very, very heavy on void enemies. But it's not necessary. We are tanky enough in this build that most of the time you won't be in any serious danger anyway. So if you've got it, great. If not, don't worry about it. And then for the rest of the gear, just wear the best available. If somebody's got good stats, if it's got health, dodge, um, void protection, elemental, whatever it might be, just take what if it's a nice yellow with good seeming stats. Take that. You really don't need to worry too much about your stats while you're progressing through the story with this build. It's going to be pretty self-sufficient, which is through the passives and the skill tree. Now, once you get the end game, things change a little bit. There are some things you want to prioritize. The number one thing you want is glancing blow to 100%. This will effectively have any damage that comes in that's not a dot. On top of all of your other damage reduction, is going to make you almost impossible to kill, which is pretty sweet. Then go for void, poison, and necrotic protection because there's nowhere to get that in your passive tree. So this will be a nice supplement to the other armor and protections that you have. Get some health. And then for damage types, get attack speed and physical damage. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about was what the final rotation is going to look like at endgame if you did everything I talked about here. You took Smite, you took Ring of Shields, you took Sigils of Hope. Let's say you're in the arena, your bar is going to look like this. You're going to have Juggernaut stance, you're going to have Sigils, you're going to have Ring of Shields, you're going to have Smite, and of course you're going to have Vengeance. What you're going to want to do is you're going to pop Juggernaut stance. Have that on at all times, just leave it on. Get your Sigils up to 4 stacks. And keep it there. These are gonna fall off from time to time. Just keep it popped as well as you can. Use Ring of Shields on cooldown if you've got enough mana. It's also gonna auto pop, as will Sigils, but use it as you can. And then use Smite to get into battle. Just go in and click on something or hover over something, hit R. You will smite into them. You'll gain 50% attack speed, and then just start using Vengeance. That is all there is to that. If you're running a mono, just switch out Juggernaut Stance for Shield Rush. If I can find Shield Rush, that would be helpful. There it is. We still have Shield Rush skilled because we don't have a skill tree for Juggernaut Stance. So we'll still get the mana efficiency. And just use Shield Rush to run through the mono. And Smite can supplement that and do your attack speed. Everything else is exactly the same. Very easy rotation, very easy to play. You're going to find yourself incredibly difficult to kill, and the damage is going to be actually pretty good at endgame. It's not bad at all. And that covers it. That is the build. That is both wall leveling and endgame. This is a fun build. I actually use this on endgame. It's one of my favorite builds. So I hope you really enjoy it. I hope you have a great time running through the story. If you want to check out some of the other builds I'm working on, follow me on Twitch. Come check it out. Come hang out with us. I will be playing a lot of Wilson lately, so if you like Wilson, that's also going to be on there. But feel free to ask Last Epoch questions if you got them, and also feel free to join Discord and ask questions there. Love to have you in our community and as a part of it as much as you would like to. Thanks again. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I will be making a lot more videos on this game as well as hopefully some Wilson videos coming up. So spoiler alert. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon.